Hello, and welcome back to yet another video. This is the 28th episode of a story in which 10-year-old Naruto meets Minato from future and that turns Naruto's life upside down. As Naruto lives a happy life in which he is trained by Minato and later Kushina too. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get the party started.
At their return to Konoha, Naruto and Minato found the whole village with the older generations apologizing to father and son. Naruto decides to forgive them and Minato agrees with him. Then villagers and ninjas hail Naruto as a hero. Minato and the other adults are called to a meeting to decide who will be substitute Hokage until Jiraiya recovers from his injuries. They choose Minato just to find out that he is no longer married to Kushina and that Naruto and him are now under the infamous CRA. Uzumaki state, next morning, "What? Are you telling me that you are no longer married?" cried Naruto. His parents nodded. Technically yes, the "till death do us part" states that our marriage is finished. We completely forgot about that part of the marital vows because when I pretended to be Erasure Uzumaki officially none of us died, said Minato. But, it doesn't change that you are both my parents or mean that you are divorced, doesn't it? Asked Naruto. No, we can't be considered divorced but neither married, due to me officially not dying but your father doing it I'm considered a widow while he is single again, explained Kushina while she took a cup of coffee. That thing must have affected Mom clearly if she is drinking that stuff. She said that she hated coffee, thought Naruto. He didn't want to ask about the next issue but he knew that he had to do it. What about that CRA thing? Don't tell me that I will have to get more girlfriends, I only want Hinata, he claimed with a fiery determination. Oh that? Asked Minato. Flashback. Everyone looked at shock at the elders after they revealed that Naruto and Minato were now under the CRA. Then the room began to be filled with Kushina's killing intent. Minato decided to do something when he realized that Kushina's strands of hair were beginning to move like the Kyuubi's tail. You two, bring here the document with the CRA, he said. Usually the Koharu and Hamura would have protested for doing the job of a delivery boy but considering the way Kushina was glaring at them they were eager to comply. Minato looked at Kushina's eyes for a while, she stopped radiating killing intent and her hair stopped moving. Those who were aware of the link between them asked themselves what he said to calm her down while those who were not aware of it looked at Minato with awe. It must be the authority granted by the Hokage title, thought one of them. The elders got into the room carrying the scroll with that stated the CRA. Minato opened the scroll, looked at it for a few seconds and spoke. As my first decree as substitute Hokage, I, Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, declare the CRA null and void under the claim that it goes against Konoha's policy of gender equality. Uzumaki-san, proceed with the destruction of the document, he said. What came next was the most vicious attack on a harmless piece of paper, a massacre. Kushina's hair turned into thin spikes that turned the document into confetti in a matter of seconds. The present people realized that such attack could do something similar to a human being. Wait a moment. You can't do that, exclaimed a young noble from the daimyo's entourage. I did it, what is the problem? Asked Minato while he glared at the noble. To the young man's merit, he managed to not faint at the Hokage's glare although he was lucky that he just went to the toilet just before the meeting because that's the only reason he didn't soil himself. Our ruler can't change AL law just because it affects him. It can be considered an abuse of power, he babbled. Minato softened his glare over the young man. I hardly see an abuse of power nullifying a law that gives my son and me special privileges over the rest of Konoha citizens, pointed Minato. Special privileges? Asked the man. Yes, that law allowed the last male of a clan to take multiple spouses to quickly restore the clan's numbers. The only reason Hashirama and Tobirama wrote this law was that they were drunk like cubes and Tobirama made a bet with Hashirama stating that he wouldn't dare to sign such absurd law. When they sobered up and realized what they did, they came to the famous statement that shinobis shouldn't indulge into alcohol, gambling and women, men if you are a kunoichi, said Minato. Everybody looked at him with stunned faces. Yes, what I said is true, I spent several years with them in the afterlife, he pointed. The Fire Lord began to laugh. Ha, 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 just as my grandfather told me. He used to say that Hashirama Dano was a very lively man, and so was Tobirama Dano when drunk, at least before beginning to rant about Uchihas. So that law just allowed to take more wives? Didn't it force you to get married and produce children? He asked. No, that would have been an interference of Konoha's government into the private affairs of clan, something against Konoha's laws, pointed Minato. Makes sense. Personally, I think that harem laws are a waste of effort. I have enough with my beloved Shurjimi, said the Lord. After some chit-chat with the Lord, they continued with another problem. Kushina got up. There is something I want to solve so our unusual situation about our marital status won't bring more confusion. Due to Minato Namikaze being the father of my heir, Naruto Uzumaki, and the direct blood relation between them, Kushina Uzumaki, current head of the Uzumaki clan, invite Minato Namikaze to rejoin the Uzumaki clan and grant him the right to use the Uzumaki name again, said Kushina, really annoyed for having to use that formal way of speaking. Then Minato spoke. I, Minato Namikaze, declare that I accept Kushina Uzumaki's invitation to rejoin the Konoha. Thereafter I, Minato Uzumaki Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, testify that the Namikaze clan is now part of the Uzumaki clan and grant all its members the right to use the Namikaze name, said Minato. The Fire Lord and his troop nodded, looking satisfied with the way the issue was solved. Having to follow this stupid protocol when the Fire Lord is present is a complete drag. No wonder he is not invited to war meetings. If we had to have them with such pomposity, the enemy already would have defeated us before we finished them, whispered one of the ninjas. End flashback. And then we formally gave thanks to Shibi for telling us about our marital status, and after dealing with some village issues we ended the meeting, said Minato. Naruto looked at him with a grin. Why that smile, son? He asked. It's just that I'm really happy that you are Hokage again, even if it is just temporal. Now my father is the coolest dad in the world, said Naruto. Minato couldn't help but feel touched by his son's words. Naruto was in an age where most kids began to get ashamed of their parents' faults and no longer admired them. Naruto's case was different. He looked at his parents with the same awe as a 6-year-old looked at his own parents, with the exception that Naruto was aware that Minato and Kushina were not perfect beings capable of everything, but that detail didn't change at all Naruto's admiration. I wonder if he would have continued looking at Kushina and me that way if we ever had the chance to be with him since he was born instead of the last 2.5 years. It doesn't matter now, we will better enjoy this period while it lasts, thought Minato. Naruto looked around, making sure that his mother was not around. So, Dad, are you going to ask Mom to marry you again? He asked. Yes, I will ask her hand again. I can't stand being no longer married to her due to a stupid technicality in the marital vows. I hope to surprise her, said Minato. Does Mom know about it? You know, with your link and all, asked Naruto. No, currently we are keeping the link at a low intensity. We get a glimpse of what the other feels but not thoughts, said Minato. Some of these days I will be able to finish that seal I'm working in to recreate that link with other people. I want to have with Hinata what you have with Mom, said Naruto. That's very remarkable, but once you finish it I recommend you to apply it when you marry and add a failsafe to prevent the leak of nature chakra once you learn Sage Mode, explained Minato. I will, Dad. Do you have a ring or will you use the old one? Asked Naruto. Minato showed him a box with a shining red ring. A further examination revealed that it was not metallic but crystalline. Beautiful, isn't it? I have been sculpting it in secret during last weeks using a ruby that was on our treasury and my wind chakra. At first it was going to be a birthday present for your mother, but I think that it will be better as a new engagement ring, said Minato. Before Naruto could say something about the ring, they heard a gasp from Kushina. Naruto rushed to the house's courtyard, the place where his mother's cry came. When he reached her, he found the reason. Up in Konoha's skies, several clouds were forming the words, "Kushina Uzumaki, will you marry me again?" Naruto had no idea how his father managed to make those clouds to take those shapes. Perhaps he used Fuinjutsu to recreate steam release, or he just flew over Konoha dragging some smoke grenades. He would have to ask him later. Kushina couldn't believe what she was seeing. She was aware that Minato eventually would ask her to marry again, but she expected from him something more traditional, like asking after a romantic dinner, not reading a proposal in the sky. She turned and saw Minato on one knee displaying a box with one of the most spectacular rings she ever saw. "Kushina Uzumaki, will you marry me and make me again the happiest man alive?" he asked. "Yes, I will, Databane," cried Kushina while she braced Minato and gave him a passionate kiss. Naruto had to wipe out some tears and felt really lucky to be able to see the scene of his parents' proposal. He quickly changed his mind when he saw that they were getting too affectionate. "Hey! I'm still here. Go to your room." Konoha's hospital. Konan opened her eyes. Where I am?" she asked. A quick observation told her that she was in a hospital room wearing a gown. There was an open window and a jar full of fresh flowers. What really caught her attention were the leaf symbols in the room, revealing that she was in Konoha's hospital. "How can this be? I should have woken up in a cell as a prisoner, not as a patient in a hospital where I could escape, unless, oh my, was that dream with Nagato true?" The door opened. Konan took hold of a box of tissue papers in order to weaponize them, but she paralyzed when she saw the newcomer. The man looked as Nagato's Deva Path, but he lacked the Akatsuki cloak and the piercings. However, what really caught her attention was that he didn't have the Rinnegan cold and distant eyes. This man's brown eyes were bright and full of life. "Konan, you are awake. Why, Yahiko? Is it really you?" she babbled. Without any word, he rushed to her side and embraced her. "Yes, it's me, Konan-chan, I'm back," he said. The contact with Yahiko's warm body confirmed to Konan that he was really back as himself and not as a semi-alive puppet controlled by Nagato. "I know, suppose that you must be thinking that this is not possible," explained Yahiko. "It started when Naruto-san teleported the Deva Path away from the village. He used a special seal that got combined with your semi-alive body that also had your soul still bound to it, managing to bring you back to life," said Konan. Yahiko was speechless. What? How do you know it?" he asked. "When Madara betrayed me, I found myself in our old refuge at AIM. Nagato was there. Looking healthy again. He told me that his time among the living was over, but that my time didn't come yet, that I would survive, and that you came back and how it happened. I couldn't believe it. I thought that it was a hallucination caused by the blood loss, until I saw you," she said. Yahiko's expression turned somber. "So you already know about Nagato," he said. "Yes, he is gone," said Konan while she shed a single tear. "Fate has a twisted humor sense. I got you back just to lose Nagato. At least he died as Nagato and not that self-proclaimed god Pain." "How could it happen?" lamented Yahiko. "Nagato couldn't bear losing you, and neither could I. You were Nagato's best friend, his brother, his inspiration and his moral guide. After we lost you, we decided to listen to Madara with the plan to gather all the bijus and use them as leverage weapons to impose peace. It was not until Madara backstabbed me that he revealed his true colors. He was using us all time," said Konan. "I will kill that bastard when I have the chance. He turned our Akatsuki into a terrorist organization hated and feared in the whole world. The only good thing I can say about it is that now, for first time in history, all the 5 great villages will join forces against him. If things go right, it could lead to a permanent peace period," said Yahiko. "Yahiko, who saved me?" she asked. "It was the Sandaime Hokage, Jiraiya sensei's own sensei. He found you when he came to arrest Danzo for doing all those activities behind the Hokage's back," pointed Yahiko. "And you were brought back to life by one of sensei's students, the same boy we were going to capture and kill. The more I think about it, the more ashamed I felt of myself. We let our pain and hate to lead our actions and ignored sensei's teachings. I will have to apologize to our Kohai Naruto and thank him when I see him, said Konan. We should give AIM support in the incoming war. Our nation was always neutral and isolationist and rejected war, but now it is time to stop being an isle in the middle of the ninja world and fight for the peace we want, exclaimed Yahiko. Konan smiled, and for a moment she felt like those first days after Akatsuki, with ninjas from all AIM joining them in their dream for peace. She had no doubt that Yahiko would convince AIM's ninjas to help in the war. His ability to reach people's hearts was that made them want to follow him. He didn't need to pose as a distant god as Nagato did to gain their loyalties. She noticed that Yahiko was staring at her. I didn't realize it, but during these years you became even more beautiful, he said. Don't say that. Why, you know how embarrassed I get when you talk like that, she said while she blushed. Without any word he kissed her, and after the initial surprise she kissed back. There will time to talk and plan later. For now they were no longer AIM's rules, just two lovers who reunited again after losing each other years ago. Hokage's office, the Konoha 15, were waiting for the Hokage to appear after they received a message summoning them. So your father is again the Hokage, and Naruto? Don't get cocky about it, and don't expect me to call you honorable son or something like that, said Kiba. I will only expect you to call me Hokage-sama once I get the seat, replied Naruto. Not if I become Hokage first, responded Kiba. Could you two stop arguing about that so we can talk about the important stuff, intervened Ino. Tell me, Naruto, what did she say? Who said what? He asked. Your mother, of course. What did she say when your father proposed to her again? She asked. Why he would that? Weren't they already married? Asked Chuji. Oh, I remember, my parents were talking about that this morning. It looks like their marriage ended when Yandame-sama died as stated by the vows, so they have to marry again? Quickly, Naruto, tell us what happened, said Sakura. What she would say? She accepted, of course. Then she kissed him, responded Naruto while he skipped the make-out part. It must explain why Sensei was looking with dreamy eyes at that ruby ring, commented Niji. A ruby ring? How big was the stone? Asked Yakumo. There was no stone, the ring is literally made of a ruby, said Haku. Kaya. Hinata gets half the Shodai's stone with her ring, and Kushina-sensei one that is literally a precious gem. You two are really lucky, exclaimed Ino. Troublesome Uzumaki men and their unaware romanticism. Now all the women who hear this will demand similar things, commented Shikamaru. Ino-san looks really lively. I thought that she would be more upset after Sasuke-san chose Sakura, commented Yakumo. I can explain that, said Haku. When we were at the restaurant celebrating the victory, a boy about 2 years older than us asked her about the poison she used to win her fight in the prelims. She thought that he was using it as an excuse to talk to her, and she gave him an erroneous list of ingredients on purpose, and he replied that it was impossible, that those ingredients were the antidote of another poison. Ino-san was really shocked to find out that the boy was interested in her for her skills and not her looks. Then she told him that if he wanted to talk with her he would have to invite her to a restaurant, the two of them alone. That's great, said Yakumo. Well, I think that he really just wanted to talk about the poison, but he said yes, set a date and left the restaurant saying that he had to settle some issues. He forgot to tell his name, said Haku. Everyone shut up when Minato, accompanied by their senseis, Ebisu, and a pair of old men, got into the office. Shikamaru and Shino recognized them as the independent judges who were hired to watch the exams. Minato spoke. Now that everyone is here, we deal with the issue of the unfinished Chunin exams. It's a pity that Orochimaru didn't wait to start his attack until they ended. We couldn't see the full potential of the whole Konoha 15, but we saw enough to determine that many of you are ready to become Chunins and that your generation is the most promising that Konoha had in years. Hyuga Niji, Tenten, Momochi Haku, step forward, he said. The three genin did what he said. I'm sorry, but due to Orochimaru's attack people and the judges couldn't see your abilities, I won't make you Chunins yet. As Hokage, I could give you the rank due to your remarkable performance during the invasion and the reports from the Jonin senseis, but I won't do it. Due to your unusual introduction during at the beginning, several lords and potential clients are really interested to see you in the next exams. As Hokage, I can let slip that chance to publicly the village. For that reason you will be Genin some months more, so you will be Konoha's trump card in the next exam, said Minato. We also have to take account that the Hokage sleeps with their sensei. Promoting without fighting in the exams would have been seen as case of blatant favoritism, thought Shino. I feel very honored with the faith you put on us, Yondaime-sama, said Haku with a bow. Me too, we will show Konoha's might in foreign lands, said Niji. Yes, and that time people's attention won't be divided among the teams of the Konoha 15, we will be the stars of the show, remarked Tenten. All right, now with the next group, said Minato, Akimichi Chuji, Yamanaka Ino, Haruno Sakura, Sai, Kurama Yakumo, Inazuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata and Mato Rock Lee. Due to your performance during the exams and during the invasion you have been deemed worthy of the Chunin rank. Your display of skill, mind, teamwork and courage is what Konoha could expect from its more seasoned Chunins, and for that reason you will promoted to said rank. Congratulations, everyone, but Kiba looked at Minato with puzzled faces. Yes. Do you see Akamaru? I was right when I said that the new attack we invented when our fusion didn't work properly would impress the judges. Wait, why he didn't mention Naruto, Sasuke, Shikamaru and Shino? They are almost as strong as us and definitely stronger than most the Konoha 15, there is no way they were not found fit to be Chunins, said Kiba. Good question, it is easy to explain, said Minato, Nara Shikamaru, Aburame Shino, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. During the exams but specially during the invasion you made a display of strategy and skill that surpassed the expectations for a Chunin, performances that proved you in a level closer to your own senseis than to your own teammates. For that reason you four have been deemed worthy of the special Jonin rank. However, due the Godame's rule that a ninja has to spend at least a year in a rank before trying to move to the next, I decided that you will be promoted to Chunins and that in a year's time counting from today you will be automatically promoted to special Jonins without having to take a test, so you will be experienced enough for that rank. Congratulations, hooray! 2 steps towards Hokage at the same time. I mean Hokage-sama. Does the automatic promotion in the future mean that I outrank other Chunins? Asked Naruto. Technically yes, you are considered a special Jonin in training, but I recommend what the more experienced Chunins have to say, that's one of the reasons the special Jonin promotion is delayed, said Minato. Congratulations Naruto-kun, you really deserved it, said Hinata while she gave Naruto a peck in the cheek. How proud I am of my Naruto-chan. Special Jonin at his first try in the Chunin exams and without finishing them, exclaimed Kushina while she hugged Naruto and began to kiss him. Mom! You are choking me, cried Naruto while the others chuckled at the scene, minus Sasuke who have given his soul to have his own mother congratulating him. Kushina let go Naruto, the senseis congratulated their students and Minato began to hand around the Chunin vests. Kushina had to wipe a tear when Naruto received the vest from his father, especially when Minato decided to jump the protocol and hugged Naruto. He could be the Hokage, but he was also a father proud of his son. Another thing from the original timeline that was fixed, this time Naruto is not left behind his friends regarding rank and gets a deserving promotion, commented Minato using the link. Yes, but it's a pity that we couldn't change everything and some things ended worse than in the original, poor Sora, lamented Kushina. The medic said that he was already dead, consumed with the Kyuubi's chakra even before the box that brought him arrived to village, pointed Minato. Yes, I know. I was the one who had to dig him out from the ruins using my chains because they couldn't touch him. The Bija chakra covering his body didn't dissipate until it got in contact with the chains, said Kushina. Now we have to assume that his traitorous father Furido joined Madara. I will have to send an explorer to check the fire temple, said Minato. An ANBU appeared and whispered something to Minato, who quickly left the office. "What did he say?" asked Kushina. "Itachi is awake." As his first act as substitute Hokage, Minato solves the CRA issue ending the law, then Kushina officially declares him again a member of the Uzumaki clan. Next day Minato proposes to her again and she agrees. After that, most the Konoha 15 are promoted to Chunins, with Naruto, Shikamaru, Shino and Sasuke earning an automatic promotion to Special Jonin in a year's time, but before they can celebrate they receive the news that Itachi is awake. When Itachi awoke in a regular hospital bed with and saw an open window with a good view of the village instead of waking up chained in an ANBU cell, he realized that something was off. He debated with the idea of leaving the village but came to the conclusion that his hosts took measures to follow him and it was very likely that they already knew that he was awake, so he decided to wait. His guess was right. A pair of minutes later 4 persons got into the room: the Sandaime Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Godame Hokage Jiraiya of the Sannin, Tsunade Senju and the Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze. Nonetheless, no wonder there was not more security. In normal circumstances he would have some chances against Sarutobi or Tsunade and maybe against Jiraiya due to him having a hand in a cast, but Minato was something else, a more powerful version of the Yellow Flash who won the war. There was also the issue that Itachi was still weak from the last attack from his illness, but for some reason he was feeling much better than other times. Itachi looked with his unmoved face at the other ninjas, not sure about what was going to happen next. Minato was the first one to speak. "Finally we meet again, Itachi. It has been 2 years since our last meeting. I hope that this time we won't end fighting as happened in the stadium or in Suna," he said. "The first time I was ordered by Akatsuki to check the power of the man who was claiming to be Naruto-kun's father. The second time was an Akatsuki mission where you and your hand of death got in the way," responded the Uchiha. "Yes, a work for Akatsuki. Tell me, Itachi, why shouldn't I execute you in the spot for being part of the organization that is conspiring to capture the tailed beasts and enslave everyone? To that charge we can add assault on a Konoha ninja and the abduction of our allies Jinchuriki, not counting associating yourself with Madara to destroy your clan and mental assault on your little brother," said Minato. "Minato. That's enough. You know that Itachi did it as part of his cover, he was always on our side," pointed the Sandaime. "Yes, I know, I was just pointing that Itachi was too zealous while pretending to be part of Akatsuki, but I understand why he did it. They would have suspected about him if he didn't show the efficiency he displayed while being a Konoha ninja. Unfortunately it worked against us. At the end his cover didn't benefit Konoha in the future, it heavily disserved the village when he helped to capture the Jinchurikis and extract their bijus," responded Minato. "So it is true that you actually came from a future where you came back to life," commented Itachi. "How do you know that?" asked Jiraiya. "I spied on Madara, he told some Akatsuki members about you," responded the Uchiha. "So you are saying that you joined that organization just to keep an eye on Madara instead of becoming a regular missing nin working for hire or assuming a new identity in a backwater village where you could have a peaceful life," said Jiraiya. "Yes, that's what I did," said Itachi. "Itachi, you already did enough for Konoha when you took all the blame for the massacre," said the Sandaime. "There was no need to do that, especially with that illness you have." "That was my decision," replied Itachi. "A really reckless decision," remarked Tsunade. "Were you aware about the gravity of your ailment? If you had not received an urgent treatment you would be dead right now. Your body was so damaged that I'm surprised that you were able to walk. If I didn't know about it I wouldn't believe that you managed to live 3 more years in the future." "How do I die in the future?" asked Itachi, looking unfazed by the revelation of the time of his death. "You died while fighting Sasuke. He survived," said Jiraiya. "I see. Then it is fine," responded Itachi. "Fine? That was not fine at all," exploded Minato. "Do you know what happened after that? Sasuke turned crazy after you used Tsukuyomi on him in order to force him to hate you. As I said earlier, you were so efficient that it backfired spectacularly. In the original timeline, Sasuke became so obsessed with revenge that he no longer cared for the village nor his peers. Things began to turn bad during the Chunin exams, when Orochimaru put the cursed seal on him with the purpose of turning him into his next host. After the invasion, he had an encounter with you where you broke his arm and used the Tsukuyomi to put him into a coma. After he recovered, he abandoned Konoha and joined Orochimaru in order to pursue power. There was a rescue mission where many of the genins of his graduation class almost died fighting Orochimaru's lackeys, minus Naruto, who had to fight Sasuke himself. He only survived a Chidori in the chest from your brother due to the Kyuubi enhancing his healing. 3 years later he fought you, you died due to your illness, and he found out the truth about the massacre, that you destroyed the Uchiha clan under Konoha's orders because they were planning to revolt against the village. How did he found out? Who told him? Asked Itachi. Toby did, responded Minato. He told Sasuke that you took the mission to destroy your clan with the condition to spare his life because he was the one you cared the most, more than your parents or your girlfriend, that you decided to turn the love he had for his older brother into pure hate so he would kill you without remorse, become a hero and restore the honor of the Uchiha. The guilt he felt after the revelation awakened his Mangenkyo Sharingan and lost his remaining sanity. He blamed Konoha for everything and joined Akatsuki with the purpose of destroying the village and became the enemy of the ninja world when he attacked the 5 Kages. The only good thing that came from it is that he killed Danzo, and his help was crucial to win the 4th Shinobi War against Madara. Then he decided to betray everybody again, all in your name. Nonetheless, I see. Does Sasuke show the same signs of turning like that in this timeline? Asked Itachi, showing some emotions for first time since the meeting began. Minato spoke. At first, when I came back in time, I played with the idea of adopting Sasuke and instruct him, but my priority was Naruto. I couldn't divide my attention between 2 boys, and to be sincere, I didn't want Naruto to form a brotherly bond with Sasuke that would have been broken in case he went missing again. Naruto suffered enough in the original timeline due to Sasuke, and I didn't want to take the risk of it happening again. For that reason I asked Kakashi to become his mentor. Kakashi-senpai? It explains why Odoto can use his techniques, commented Itachi. Minato nodded. Yes, Kakashi and Sasuke are a very similar kind of ninjas. They got along really fine and learned a lot from each other. He also took a lot of effort to instill the will of fire on Sasuke and show him that you don't have to break your bonds with your peers to become strong, that in fact those bonds are what make you really strong, he said. I will have to find a way to thank Kakashi for what he did, and the same for you, Sandaime-sama, if what I heard about him being your latest disciple is true, said Itachi. Yes, Sasuke is my 4th disciple, spoke Sarutobi. When I passed the Hokage hat to Jiraiya, I decided to rebuild the Konoha military police force and train him to lead it. At first he was annoyed for the decision to use again the star symbol with the Uchiha crest emblazoned in it, but he agreed with it when I explained that it was to honor the Uchiha clan, the same way Konoha honors Yuzu with the Uzumaki crest. The boy is brilliant, not a super genius like Minato or you, but more talented than any of the Sannin when they had his age. Jiraiya and Tsunade glared at him. Don't look at me like that, you know that it is true. What I was saying is that not only he is talented, he also has the rare ability to gather people around himself and influence them, not at the same grade as Naruto, but he is definitely born to be leader. Do you know that he managed to create and sign a contract with cats? Not only he is the first person who managed to sign a contract with them, but also the youngest one who created a summoning contract. In the last months he made such progress that due to his performance during the Chunin exams and the invasion he was deemed fit for the special Jonin rank, although first he will have to spend a year as Chunin before getting the rank. I bet that when he is promoted again he already will have enough merits, experience and power to be considered for Jonin. If it happens I will give him the leadership of the force, said the Sandaime. Itachi bowed at him. Arigato, Sandaime-sama. I'm very happy to know that my little brother won't turn into a psychopath due to what I did to him. For a moment I feared that he would turn into a lost cause and you wouldn't have any choice but to imprison him or give him to Danzo to turn him into one of his drones. He said. That bastard Danzo. I should have killed him years ago, interrupted Sarutobi. If it was not for him the Uchiha massacre would have never happened. I never realized how much he sabotaged the negotiations between the clan and the rest of the village. The last straw was when he assaulted Shisui when he was planning to use the power of his Mangenkyo to make the leaders of the Uchiha loyal to the village and stole one of his Sharingan eyes, everything while I was too busy trying to fix things with your father. That felony turned the incoming rebellion into an act of self-defense, but it is something I didn't find out until Minato told what actually happened. I believed that you had to kill Shisui because he found out that your loyalty was for the village. Then the bastard had the audacity to lie saying that the Uchiha rebellion already started, leaving me little choice but to agree with his plan. How I wish I could bring him back to life to kill him myself, but Madara got there first during this invasion and stole Shisui's Sharingan. I see, Danzo is dead and Madara has Shisui's eye. I can't imagine what he will be able to do with it, but it will be catastrophic. That knowledge will be useful when I confront him, said Itachi. First you will have to end recovering from the effects of your illness, Itachi. Thanks to a new medicine that it is now at Konoha's disposal and my healing arts, I managed to repair your body, leaving it in a state almost the same as it was before you got ill, said Tsunade. Does it mean that I'm healed? That can't be possible, medical science can't destroy my ailment, responded the Uchiha. You are right, I just healed the damage in your body but the disease is still there. When we have the time we should have a meeting with Inoichi to study it. You have the most extreme case of a psychosomatic illness ever seen, said Tsunade. I'll rather leave it as it is. I never said that I wanted to be healed, pointed Itachi. Wait, are you telling me that Itachi's disease is just in his head but it is actually destroying his body? How is it possible? What caused it? Asked Jiraiya in disbelief. I can explain that, said Minato. Itachi's disease was caused by the biggest guilt feeling ever had by a human. The remorse caused for the genocide of his family and the attack on his brother created the illness in Itachi's subconscious. Since the night of the massacre, Itachi has been punishing himself without his knowledge for what he did. For that reason in the future he didn't have to spend a time in hell for parricide. You are partially right, Yondaime-sama. However, I have to point that I was completely aware of the origin of my illness since it began to manifest, replied Itachi. Are you saying that you knew since the beginning but you didn't do anything about it? Asked Jiraiya. Why should I? As Yondaime said, I'm a parricide, one of the worst class of criminals. This is a fair punishment for what I did, said Itachi. The Hokages looked at the Uchiha with a mixture of sadness and admiration. Here was one of the kindest and loyal persons ever born in the ninja world, somebody who could have changed it for better but had to become an unknown sacrifice and have his name tarnished due to the manipulation of some bastards. They swore that it wouldn't happen again. Never. Itachi, there is something else you have to know about Danzo, intervened the Sandaime. When he gave you the order of wiping out the clan and become a missing nin, he used Shisui's Sharingan to make you think that it was the only possible solution. You are not actually responsible for what you did. Oh yes, I realized it some days after I left Konoha, responded the Uchiha. And you didn't do anything about it? Asked Sarutobi. What could I have done? While it is true that Danzo implanted that idea in my mind at the end, I was the one who decided go with it. We also had to take account that the clan was already doomed without my intervention. Madara returned to Konoha specifically to destroy it. He would have done it without my help. I played with the idea of taking Sasuke with me and abandon the clan and the village, but it wouldn't have prevented Madara destroying the clan or a civil war in case he changed his mind. At the end more people would have died and Konoha would have been so weakened that it would have been vulnerable enough for an invasion that could have led to another ninja war. My other idea was to destroy the clan and take Sasuke with me, but it would have been condemning him to the life of a missing nin. No, my best choice was to make Sasuke hate me so he would become strong enough to protect himself and his future children after I died while keeping the honor of the clan intact, said Itachi. But why you didn't do anything about Danzo? Asked Jiraiya. Coming back and exposing him would have caused another massacre that would have weakened Konoha, and it was not like I could go and kill him myself. He probably had post-mortem orders on his soldiers to kill Sasuke in case I came back to kill him. Taking revenge only leads to pain to those who doesn't deserve it. It was better to leave things as they were, responded Itachi. The Hokages looked at Itachi with more respect than before. That young man had a wisdom that only some people could achieve, and only after living for decades. If it was not for Madara and Danzo, I probably would have been training him to become the Godame Hokage, and the frictions between the village and the Uchiha clan solved due to one of them becoming the next Hokage. Never mind, there is no point to think about how things could have been if everything went right, thought Sarutobi. Jiraiya spoke. You may have been right or not about leaving things as they were, but the circumstances have changed. We can't bring back the Uchiha clan or give you back all those years that you sacrificed as missing Nin, but your position in Konoha is something we can fix. Just before the meeting, Minato and I signed an edict stating that the Uchiha massacre was actually caused by Madara and Danzo, that you were framed for it but decided to use it as a cover to work all these years as a Konoha spy at Akatsuki with only the Hokages knowing the truth, he said. Itachi looked at him disbelief. Don't put that face, it is true to a point. We won't be lying to the people, just keeping some details for ourselves like the Uchiha's plan to rebel against the village. As soon as you recover you will be reinstated as a Konoha ninja with the Jonin rank and receive a money sum equivalent to several S-rank missions as part of your services and sacrifices for the village. You earned it, said Jiraiya. Itachi looked at him annoyed. I will accept it if you like, but I shouldn't receive that treatment. I'm a parricide, a murderer, he said. No, you are not, you are a hero, one of the best that the village ever had. Murderers kill people due to things like revenge or their own benefit. Heroes are those who make great personal sacrifices for others. As Hokages, we think that it is better for Konoha to have a real hero to inspire and protect it than a martyr who would be unfairly loathed, said Minato. What about my brother? Really, you think that he will believe that story and accept everything? Asked Itachi. Ask him yourself. Sasuke, you can get out, said Minato. A hidden panel on the room opened, revealing a very pale Sasuke. Itachi also paled. What? Since when he has been there? He asked. Since the beginning of the meeting, we asked him to come, now he knows everything, said Minato. Sasuke was looking at Itachi with bemused eyes. Itachi, he whispered. We will leave you alone, you have a lot to talk about, said the Sandaime. The Hokages left the room and closed the door, leaving the two brothers alone. Sasuke stood there for during what seemed to an eternity, still dealing with the idea that that man who destroyed the clan to test his power never existed, that he never stopped being his protective and caring elder brother, willing to do anything for him. Is it true, doesn't it? You did everything to protect me? He asked while he approached the bed. Yes, I did, responded Itachi. But why? Cried Sasuke. Itachi then poked Sasuke's head and smiled. Because that's what older brothers do, they protect their siblings at all costs. Tears began to form in Sasuke's eyes. Acting by pure instinct, he embraced his older brother and began to weep, who returned the hug. I am so sorry, Enai-san. All those years hating and cursing you. It's all right, Ototo, it was my decision to make you hate me, you don't have to apologize for anything, responded Itachi. Enai-san. IW wouldn't have minded if you took me with you, to being a missing ninja with a brother who I loved would have been much better than being alone in a safe village while hating said brother, he said. I'm sorry, Ototo. I was just giving priority to your safety, whispered Itachi. Sasuke continued weeping for several minutes until finally he calmed down. He whipped the last tears, looking a bit embarrassed for breaking like that before his older brother. Itachi didn't say anything, he just stood there smiling at him. Enai-san. Is it true that you are dying due to a self-inflicted disease? Asked Sasuke. It's my punishment for what I did, responded Itachi. You have to stop it. I didn't get you back just to lose you again due to your guilt, exclaimed Sasuke. Ototo, it's not as easy. Yes it is. You just have to forgive yourself, you had little choice, Mom and Dad already knew it and for that reason they forgave you as I did, said Sasuke. What are you talking about? Asked Itachi. Yondaime-sama met our parents in the afterlife and he told me, the whole clan said that they understood what you did and forgave you. They wouldn't want you to die to your guilt, especially now that your name is being cleared, you have to live so we can restore the name and reputation of the Uchiha clan. Together, he said. A single tear appeared in Itachi's eyes. Sasuke realized that his brother got relieved of the unbearable burden he has been carrying all these years. He looked at other way, he wouldn't let his brother to feel the same of being seen crying. Some minutes later Itachi spoke again. All right Ototo, I will stop punishing myself and I will live. We will rebuild the Uchiha clan into his former glory but this time it will be different, with less arrogance and better values. Talking about the rebuild of the clan, you should introduce me to that pink-haired girlfriend of yours, she will become my sister-in-law someday after all, joked Itachi while he poked Sasuke's forehead. Ni-san. That day began the legend of the Uchiha brothers, a duo only comparable to Hashirama and Tobirama or the Sage of the Six Paths and his brother. Itachi had a meeting with the Hokages where they clarify what actually happened the night of the massacre and the origin of Itachi's illness. At the end they tell Itachi that they cleared his name and welcome him back to Konoha's ranks. They also reveal that Sasuke has been listening all the time and after a tearful talk both brothers reconcile. Konoha's gates. 3 days after the end of the invasion the delegations from the various villages that participated in the Chunin exams were leaving the village. In normal circumstances they would leave the village in a fast pace in order to reach Fire Country's borders as soon as possible but this time they were going in a slower pace so some members of said delegations who were still at the village's gates could catch them. Those members were the Jinchurikis of the tailed beasts who were not captured yet by Akatsuki-Han, who was missing and Naruto who was already home. As happened during the last weeks, all Jinchurikis and the tailed beasts had a shared dreamscape. That time everyone appeared with the same size and unable to use chakra. Gyuki said that it was a great chance to have Jinchurikis and Bijus talking on equal standing. It didn't work. Son Goku, Rashi and both Jinchurikis and Bijus couldn't resist the temptation to fight each other on equal terms until dawn. Naruto, Gaara, Rashi, Yujito and Fu were saying the final goodbye to each other. Most of them wouldn't admit it but they wished they could stay a bit more. It was hard to part from people who shared the same burden as them and truly could empathize with you after years of dealing with loneliness and bigotry. It was not a surprise that Naruto turned out to be the most sentimental about the departure, followed by who was not in the mood to rap or make rhymes. Take care Gaara, we don't know when Akatsuki could attack again. Remember to send a message to Konoha if you suspect that they are near, okay? Said Naruto while he hugged Gaara and handed him a 3-pronged kunai. I will, my friend. I won't allow them to capture me again. If they do they will know the mistake of attacking a sand user in the middle of the desert, responded Gaara. Naruto then hugged Yujito. In normal circumstances that would have earned to any man several vicious claw attacks but those were not normal circumstances. Goodbye Yujito-ne-chan, congratulations for making Special Jonin 2. I have to confess that I am a bit jealous. Your village doesn't have the 1-year experience rule and you won't have to spend a whole year as Chunin in order to make your rank effective, he said. Well, I was already taking the responsibilities of a Chunin before the exam, including the missions, it's just that we could never find the time to make it official, responded Yujito still keeping the fact that she was already a special Jonin before taking the exams and only pretended to be a genin due to the mission to assassinate during the exams if given the chance. Yujito was relieved that the Raikage called off the mission after the invasion, not only due to Naruto revealing himself stronger than her but also because the boy managed to carve through her hard shell during the few days that passed since they met. Then to her surprise Naruto handed her a gift from Kushina. Yujito would find later that it was a scroll about the issues of pregnancy in Jinchurikis. "I will miss you too, Yujito-chan," exclaimed B while he ran to hug her. "We are going to the same place, you idiot," exclaimed Yujito while she evaded her senpai. "Can't blame me for trying," responded B, who proceeded to bump fists with everyone, Naruto being the last one. "Lee and Guy-sensei will miss you, B. Ajisen, me too," he said. "We will meet again when we reunite to fight Akatsuki. I already told them when we said farewell earlier. Remind them that they are welcome at my home in Kumo," responded B. Naruto gave him a gift from Jiraiya. Back in Kumo he would find out that it was a photo album full of pic of cleavages. It came with a note from Jiraiya explaining that now that he was marrying the woman with the best cleavage ever he wouldn't be able to appreciate the album as before and determined that it would be better in the hands of another lover of female anatomy. Naruto gave a brief hug to Fu. "Goodbye Fu-chan. Oh, I forgot, the Aburames told me that they couldn't come to say goodbye to you because they have a meeting with a very important businessman and couldn't delay it. Konohamaru, Moegi, Udon and Hanabi also told me that they couldn't come to say goodbye to you because their parents grounded them," he explained. Fu felt a bit disappointed that she couldn't say goodbye to the people who didn't treat her like she had the plague, and for a brief moment she thought that they turned out to be like the rest of people in Taki. Naruto handed her a bag. "I almost forgot, in this bag there is a bento from Mrs. Aburame, a box from Shino, I think he likes you, and some thank you gifts from the families of the kids. There is also a pass so you can come to Konoha to visit them when you like," he said. Fu looked dumbfounded at the gifts and almost cried when she saw a drawing of her made by Moegi that said, "My favorite ninja." Then she blushed when she saw that inside Shino's box there was a butterfly-shaped hairpin. "It looks like there is a boy from the noble Aburame clan who likes you," teased Yujito. Shut up. "I could say the same about that guy from your team who is always looking at you," replied Fu. The guys wisely decided to not interfere in the teasing of the two female Jinchurikis. Naruto finally hugged Rashi. "I'm very glad that things we don't part as enemies." Rashi Ajisen, by the way, do you know something about Han? It looks like he disappeared from the map, he said. "I bet that he is safe and already outside of Fire Country enjoying his newfound freedom," replied Rashi. "However, it will be better if he returns to Iwa's safety now that Akatsuki is hunting us. He won't like to know that." Mini Gigi Anoki declared the contract with Muta that allowed him to leave IWA null and void. In normal circumstances Kages can't break the deals and contracts made by their predecessors, but due to Muta's replacement by an enemy agent he could make an exception. So, what will happen now? "Will he be labeled as a missing nin?" asked Gaara. Rashi denied it with his head. "No, but he will be required to return to IWA immediately. Anoki will send teams with letters signed by him explaining what happened and telling him to return to IWA for his own safety. I hope that he accepts to return. I wouldn't want to drag him in chains back to IWA," he explained. "I would love to see that fight," commented Yujito. "I bet that now that you have full control of Son Goku's chakra you would be declared the winner," said Fu. "Yeah, I wish B. Ajisen and you could stay a bit more and give us some tips about handling Bija chakra. Can you imagine if all us achieved perfect Jinchuriki status? Akatsuki wouldn't know what hit them," commented Naruto. Rashi and B exchanged comprehensive looks. While it was undeniable that them training the younger Jinchurikis would give the villages a winning card in the incoming war, the harsh truth was that A and Anoki wouldn't agree to have them training the Jinchurikis of other villages, especially if later said Jinchurikis could turn again into enemies after the war. After more farewell words, the foreign Jinchurikis finally left the village, leaving Naruto alone at the gates. He wiped out a tear and headed back to the village. It was time to start his year as a Chunin. Without their knowledge a pair of persons have been listening to the wild Jinchuriki meeting hidden just a few meters apart. "Aren't you going to say goodbye to them and tell that you have been there the whole time?" asked Ranmaru, a young boy with red eyes and purple hair, who was attached to Han's back. "No, it is better this way. As long as I'm not officially told that my deal with Muta is over, I am free to wander around without any repercussions. I don't want to renounce to our freedom just to say goodbye. I won't be able to fulfill my promise to show you to, and that dwarf that IWA has as Kage would take you to a lab to analyze your eyes and then put you into a breeding program to produce ninjas with your bloodline limit. Any ninja village would kill for a Dojutsu able to nullify most forms of detection, including other Dojutsus, and we are not counting that it has some features of both the Byakugan and the Sharingan, responded Han. Yes, you are right, but what about those Akatsuki guys? Asked Ranmaru. You don't have to worry about them. We are hidden before a ninja village that is in orange alert state after an invasion and nobody noticed us thanks to your powers. Those bastards won't find us, and if by any chance we casually cross paths with any of them, they will have to face our powers combined. We will be fine, remarked the older man. Ranmaru nodded with a smile, relieved with Han's words. Then let's start our travels. Where are we going first? He asked. We will go to the land of rivers. I heard from Konoha's green weirdos that there is a shop near the Katabami gold mine that serves a dish called the curry of life that makes miracles, he said. Really? I never tried curry. I wonder how it tastes, commented Ranmaru while they left village's borders. Time travel had more ramifications than one could imagine. Han meeting Ranmaru was one of them. In the original timeline, Ranmaru was an orphan boy from a farmland near the Mist Village who grew up with a weak body, who was cared by the farmer living near him until they found out about his mysterious bloodline limit. Then he was found by the swordsman of the Mist, Raiga Kurasuke, who took him under his care before defecting the village. In that timeline, Raiga died after facing Naruto and Guy's team, and Ranmaru became a chef apprentice in the Curry of Life shop. However, things were different in this timeline. Raiga died in Snow Country in a mission that also involved the same Konoha ninjas before meeting Ranmaru. The boy was almost starved to death when Han found him in an escapade from IWA. After finding out about Ranmaru's power and feeding him, courtesy from farmers who realized that it was not good for health to say no to a gigantic, armored ninja, Han decided to take the boy under his wing and use his power to avoid detection for his planned defection from IWA. When Muta offered to discharge him from service for his participation in the exams, he saw the chance to leave and took it. Everything was going according to the plan. What he didn't expected was to grow fond of Ranmaru and meeting his fellow Jinchurikis, but that was fine. Even the most antisocial humans need some company. Han smiled under his armored mask. After years of servitude and contempt from a village that he didn't love, things were finally going his way. Back in Konoha, life was turning back to normal in the village, at least as normal as it could be after an invasion, the reconstruction works and the last revelations. There was a group of women the market street gossiping about the news, like the edict stating that Itachi Uchiha was innocent of the Uchiha massacre, Madara alive and being the one behind the Kyubi attack and the real responsible alongside Danzo of the massacre. To the news of Erasure Uzumaki being actually Minato Namikaze, there was him retaking the Hokage mantle, no longer married to Kushina due to the technicality of dying in his spectacular new marriage propose. Oh, to think that Yondaime-sama has been walking among us during the last 2 years without nobody realizing. That Samus flew through Konoha's skies in his strong arms, commented one very thin woman who resembled a broomstick while she embraced herself. When did that happen? Asked a blonde woman, one who just moved to Konoha some months ago. When Erasure revealed that he could fly, the village offered his services to take people flying with him. It was really successful and there was a lot of demand of it, responded a chubby woman. Then what happened with that service? It was not there when I moved to Konoha, asked the blonde. Konoha stopped to offer that service when Shi appeared and threatened to kill any woman who dared to get near Erasure, responded the thin woman. You are talking about Kushina Uzumaki, aren't you? Realized the blonde. Yeah, that bitch, exploded the chubby. How she dared to claim Yondaime-sama all for herself? They were no longer married. And then after finding out about it, she tricked him to marry her again and destroyed the CRA so she wouldn't have to share him with anybody. SSSH. Look who is coming over there, said the thin Minato and Kushina were walking through Konoha streets with her attached to his arm. Villagers and ninjas alike greeted them, with some of them even bowing to the couple. When they passed at the women's side, they also greeted and smiled until the couple was in the other side of the street. Minato looked at Kushina. "You are really enjoying this, don't you, Kushi-chan? Parading me like a trophy husband," he said with a smirk. "Don't complain, you are also bragging of having a hot spouse. Besides, this is something that I have been wanting to do with you since we married for first time but couldn't do because we had to keep your identity in secret for safety reasons," she responded. "Well, you were married to the dark, mysterious and powerful Erasure while at the same time you had the man the other women wanted. It was a good deal," he remarked. "Yes, it was, and now they know that Erasure and you are the same person and only mine," she said while she giggled. He was happy to see that he still could make her blush. "Where do you want to go now?" he asked. "Let's go to tea, the street of the bathhouse. There is a group of gossipers that always hang out there," she said in a whisper. Meanwhile, the trio of women were freaking out. "Arg! Did you see that? She tricked him to kiss her in the middle of the street." "What a slut!" exclaimed the thin one. "A lucky slut. Have you seen the ring she has in her finger?" "I heard that it was made from a single ruby stone," commented the blonde. "It's over. He is definitely taken," sighed the chubby one. "Oh well, he is just a man, there are plenty of them in the world," said the blonde. "Yes, but how many able to compete with Yondaime-sama and also single?" asked the thin one. Just at that time Itachi, accompanied by Sasuke, passed by the street, taking his first walk since he was released from the hospital. The older Uchiha still couldn't believe how the village reacted to the revelation that he has been loyal to Konoha all time. The next morning, after his meeting with the Hokage and Sasuke, messengers filled his room with gifts from his now reinstated fan club, apology letters from several ninjas and villagers for being suspicious of his clan for the Kyuubi attack, many of them including invitations to dinner and shop discounts. There were also letters from all the clan heads welcoming him back to Konoha, including one from the Fire Lord restoring his noble status. However, what really made him realize that he was welcome back to the village was the group of ninjas and villagers who clapped and cheered at him when he got out from the hospital. It was clear that the village didn't want to repeat the past mistakes with Naruto and the Uchiha clan after the Kyuubi attack. The three women looked dumbfounded at the older Uchiha. Is that Itachi Uchiha?" babbled the chubby one. "Oh my! He was cute years ago but now he is gorgeous," exclaimed the thin one. "He is 18, isn't he?" "That means that he is not off limits," said the blonde. "Oh yes, he is definitely fair play. And he is still single," said the chubby one with a smile. They began to follow the Uchihas, among a group of other women who ranged from teenagers to middle-aged women. Itachi did his best to ignore them. "Perhaps I'm too welcome in Konoha," thought Itachi while he began to think that he would be safer back at Akatsuki's headquarters, surrounded by S-class criminals. A month later, with the new Chunins, Naruto and the other promoted ninjas minus Shikamaru and Shino found out something that their teachers never bothered to tell: Chunin rank sucked. Instead of just accessing to new, exciting missions, they were given a scheduled program full of duties for the next month that took most their time. They were explained that as middle-level ninjas they were no longer considered ninjas in training, that now they were the equivalent of public servants. It wouldn't have been so bad if most of those duties were not things like dealing with paperwork for Konoha's bank, managing forms, transporting medical supplies, helping the academy teachers, to inspect the cargo for merchants, work as tax inspectors, patrolling Fire Country's borders, patrolling the Severs, guard duty. Naruto and Kiba complained that most of these duties could be done by civilian public servant, but the Chunin assigned to introduce them into their new duties explained that due to the military nature of the village those works couldn't be assigned due to the risk of infiltration, and that genins were not ranked enough to take those duties that, while not risky, could endanger the village if done bad. However, what they disliked the most was that now they had to train during their free time, at the end of their workday, meaning that from now they would progress at a slower pace. It was one of the reasons why there were so few jonins in ninja villages compared to genins and chunins. The other ones were the mortality rates from higher ranking missions and the minimum skill level required for that rank, only attainable by the most talented and dedicated ninjas. Of course, there were advantages of being chunins. As part of the village's public servants, they now had a fixed salary plus the money they got from their missions that now were almost never low level minus those times that they had to lead genin teams substituting their jonin senseis, but at least now they were the ones barking orders while their subordinate did most the job. Dominant and bossy types like Ino and Kiba really liked that part. There was also the plus that now they could take missions without the mandatory supervision of their jonin senseis. They no longer felt babysit by their senseis. Chunins were also given the option to take a permanent post instead of rotating duties. They would get less missions due to the need to stay regularly in their posts but would get a higher fixed salary than the regular chunins rotating duties. A good example of that were the academy teachers, the police force or the medical staff. However, none of the new chunins thought about taking that option yet, but they have some duties that they preferred over the rest. Hinata, Sakura, Yakumo and Ino, due to their medic nin status, were assigned almost exclusively to medical duties where they could improve their skills in the field. Sasuke patrolled with the police force as part of his training to become the next chief. Kiba and Shino usually took patrolling duties. Chuji and Sai preferred inspection duties. Chuji managed to be in all sanitary inspections to Konoha's restaurants where he could taste the food for free to test its quality. Lee was assigned to help at the academy until some parents complained about their children wearing green suits. Shikamaru did his best to be assigned in guard duty where he could stay sitting most the day. Naruto was the one who rotated duties the most so he would get a better knowledge of the working of the village. It was Tsunade's last day at work before taking maternity leave. She was not showing signs of pregnancy yet, but due to her risky case other doctors and her deemed prudent to stop working at that time. Naruto alongside Shikamaru and Shino were helping her to store some valuable but expirable components in order to preserve them indefinitely. Naruto looked to Tsunade, holding a note. "I'm sorry Oba-chan, I completely misjudged you," he read the note. "What are you talking about, brat?" she asked. "It's about my future self. I couldn't understand why you kept him as genin after he did more meritorious things than the rest of his friends. For example, he got the bells from an experienced jonin like Kakashi who was not holding back, even with a chunin's help. That was something harder than doing some good fights in the chunin exams against some genins in semi-controlled matches where you had the option to concede the match and walk away if you were losing. Or when he defeated Kakuzu, the immortal S-class ninja who had Kakashi, Ino, and Chuji against the ropes using a S-rank jutsu he just created. And of course when he defeated Pain and saved the village, what the combined Konoha's forces including you couldn't do. When I read my future self's biography at first I thought that you were unfair to me, but after experimenting the time-consuming responsibilities of a chunin I realized that you did the best thing keeping me as genin so I would have the time to train to become the strongest ninja of the village," he said, finishing the note. "I'm glad to see that you understood my reasons to keep you as genin in the original timeline, Naruto. I received a lot of criticism for that after Pain's attack. There was no week where I had to reject petitions to promote your future self to chunin. I even thought about giving you the promotion and exclude you from the chunin duties, but that would have been seen as blatant favoritism and the other chunins would have protested with reason, so I deemed better to keep things as they were," said Tsunade. "Well, Naruto's future self got a lot of special treatment," remarked Shino. "What are you talking about?" asked Naruto. "When your future self got back from the training trip with Jiraiya, instead of being assigned to a team of experienced genins and take low to medium rank missions, he got assigned to a team of high-ranking ninjas and began to take high ranking, the first being the rescue of the Kazekage nonetheless, and since that day he never got a low-ranking mission again. He got most the advantages of a chunin without having to deal with its disadvantages, having more time to train and become stronger than the rest of us," pointed the Aburame. Naruto was baffled at his words. "I never thought about it that way. But that's the truth, intervened Shikamaru. At some point all the graduation class confronted Tsunade-sama about the unfair/privileged treatment your future self was getting, and she explained her reasons. At the end she proved to be right. Of course I was right, it was the best for the village in the long run, said Tsunade with a smirk. We know now and we are sorry Godame-sama, we also misjudge you. We even thought that you just wanted to keep Naruto as genin so you could make tons of money betting for him at the Chunin exams. Once again we are sorry, said Shino with bow. Tsunade responded with a bow without a word. Those two are really cunning, they found out my other reason to keep Naruto's future self as genin, she thought. Waterfall Village. Things at Takigakure were going back to normality after the latest events. Just a week ago it was attacked by the missing Nin Suein, who threatened to kill the villagers if his former student and new elected village leader Shibuki didn't give him the hero's water, Takigakure's prized treasure. During the confrontation Shibuki ended drinking the hero's water that gave him a power boost to fight Suein, but even with that it was not enough to defeat his former sensei. However, just before Suein killed Shibuki, a Konoha team formed by Naruto and Sasuke appeared and defeated the missing Nin with ease. They explained that they came there with a letter from the Kages warning them about Akatsuki and asked if they could see Fu, but before Shibuki could intervene the village council appeared and told them that they already did their job and asked them to leave the village, but not before looking at Naruto as disgust, obviously due to his now public status as Jinchuriki. Much to Sasuke's surprise, Naruto agreed to leave without any protest. Unlike most Taki villagers, Shibuki was worried about Konoha's reaction to the treatment they gave to its hero, especially after he saved them. I have to write an apology letter. Those counselors don't know how terrible can be the Yellow Flash. If he is half as powerful as my father told me, we are going to be screwed, he thought. Its thoughts were interrupted by the appearance of a swirling distortion before him. Several figures emerged from it. He and the ninjas accompanying him got in guard, prepared to confront whoever dared to treat his village. However, they froze when he recognized the newcomers. Before them stood Tobi and Kakuzu, Takigakure's most infamous missing Nin. Said ninja stepped forward. It looked like you recognize us. There is no doubt that the Kages told you about us. It will make things easier. Handle us the Nanabai Jinchuriki, he ordered. After saying goodbye to his fellow Jinchurikis, Naruto and the new Chunins cope with the new responsibilities that came with the job and finds out why his future self was kept as genin. Days later, Kakuzu and Tobi appear at Takigakure demanding their leader to handle Fu. Shibuki's worst nightmare became true. Kakuzu, Taki's most infamous and dangerous missing Nin, was back and wanted to take Fu away. Some days ago he would have wet himself and would have fled to the nearest hole, but his experience with his former sensei and Naruto changed him. He was no longer the coward who was chosen as Taki's ruler due to his heritage. He was a man who would stand and face those who threatened his village. Are you crazy? Really, you think that we will handle Fu to you like that? I will protect her, he cried. Kakuzu stepped ahead and smirked under his mask. Really? You must be the one who seems willingly to do that. Your men here don't look as loyal to the Jinchuriki as you, he said. A brief look from Shibuki confirmed that the ninjas accompanying were scared and didn't seem eager to fight. Shibuki-sama, perhaps we should do what he said and handle him the Jinchuriki, said one of them. What? Are you serious? We won't handle Fu to them and that's final, exclaimed Shibuki. Please, rethink it, remarked the other. No one in the village is match for them. If we try to oppose them we will be slaughtered and they will take the girl away anyways. As Taki's leader, it is your duty to do the best for the majority of the village. You should listen to your subordinate Shibuki-san. As Akatsuki's treasurer, I promise that we will leave your village alone if you give us your Jinchuriki, intervened Kakuzu. That's not a choice I can take alone. Such decision requires the approval of Taki's council, said Shibuki, wanting to make time until he could come with a plan. It sounds reasonable. Tell them to come and bring the Nanabai with them. I have a very interesting offer for the village, said Kakuzu. Shibuki whispered some words to his ninjas. One headed towards the village's center while the other headed outside. However, before the ninja left the area, he was surrounded by several white Zetsu clones who appeared from bushes. "Where are you going?" "The village is in the opposite direction," asked one of them. "I'm going to get the Jinchuriki, she lives in the forest surrounding the village," explained the ninja. Kakuzu made a signal to the Zetsus and they allowed him to leave alone. Shibuki had to suppress a sigh of relief. The truth was that he told the ninja to warn Fu and flee towards Konoha as fast as she could while he did his best to distract the Akatsuki members. The ninja with the strange spiral mask approached him. "I'm confused, why Fu lives outside the village? Was she a bad girl?" "Toby is a good boy," he said. "It's complicated. The villagers," explained Shibuki, "decided that the demon girl didn't deserve to live with the rest of the village," remarked Kakuzu. "Wait? But that's wicked. Why your comrades don't want her around? I heard that she attracted a lot of clients for the village after the Chunin exams," exclaimed. "It looks like the ways of Taki's council didn't change during my absence. They still treat their strongest ninjas as shit in order to reinforce their position as the village's rulers," commented Kakuzu with disgust. "Oh yes, now I realize it, this is the village that dumped you after they sent you to fight with the Shodai Hokage and in reprisal you stole the forbidden scroll with the technique that gave you your powers," said Toby. "It was fair payment after they betrayed me," said Kakuzu. "Those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash," commented Toby while he adopted an exaggerated thinking pose. Shibuki felt ashamed for his village. Its actions made a pair of missing ninjas to look in higher moral grounds than his fellow citizens. The members of Taki's council arrived accompanied with half of Taki's ninja forces surrounding them and some curious civilians who wanted to know what was going on. A glint of hope appeared in Shibuki's eyes. Perhaps they would have a chance to defeat the missing nins if they made a coordinated attack. He would have to take the civilians to safety, tough. However, his hope began to fade when he noticed the reactions of his fellow ninjas after they recognized Taki's most infamous missing nin. Said ninja looked at the main counselor, a really old man who was a teenager at the time the great villages were founded. "So you are still alive, Fugu, years were not generous with you," he said. What are you doing here, Kakuzu?" asked Fugu, trying to keep a brave facade. "I just came to have some business with you. My associates and me want to acquire the nanabai for our organization. In normal circumstances, we just would have break through the village to get the container, but you see, our new leader decided to make a less direct approach and told me to use a more mundane approach," said Kakuzu while he opened a briefcase full of money. Fugu and the rest of counselors talked among themselves for a few seconds, then he looked at Kakuzu with calculating eyes. "How much are you going to offer?" "The Nanabai Jinchuriki got quite popular after the Chunin exams. A good chunk of our clients are asking specifically for her for the missions," he said. Shibuki and a good chunk of the ninjas looked at the counselors in disbelief. "What are you doing? Really, are you going to sell our comrade to an organization of S-class missing nins that are wanted by the great villages?" "I won't allow it," he cried. Many of the Taki ninjas began to protest too, while the rest didn't say anything and looked at the counselors waiting for orders. "We are just doing the best for the village. A pacific solution that also brings money to the village is the best action course for everyone," reasoned Fugu. "Fu would disagree," said Shibuki. "She accepted the risks when she agreed to become a ninja of this village. She should be happy that her sacrifice will prevent a bloodbath," said Fugu. "Bloodbath my balls. You just want to get rid of her and get the money. These ninjas are wanted by the great villages. They are even making a ninja alliance to fight them. Are you aware of what would happen to Taki if they find out that our village sold them one of the tailed beasts? They will accuse us of being Akatsuki's accomplices and attack us," exclaimed Shibuki. Many of the Taki ninjas who didn't protest earlier began to look nervous and sent nervous looks to the counselors. "Oh, don't worry about that. As part of the deal we will say that we captured the Jinchuriki without Taki's knowledge," said Kakuzu. The counselors talked among themselves again. "All right, From this moment Taki's council decrees that it is forbidden to talk about the deal between Taki and Akatsuki under death penalty, said Fugu. Not so fast. According to Taki's, all the decrees and important decisions require the approval of both the council and the leader of the village. I won't allow the village to sell food to Akatsuki and then hide it to the great villages. I already took measures to prevent that and, he said until he noticed that Fu was present in the area, floating over the crowd with the Nanabai's chakra wings and looking at the council in horror. Just at that moment the ninja who was sent arrived panting. I'm sorry, I couldn't stop her, Shibuki-sama. She insisted to come here when she heard that Akatsuki there, that she had to protect the village, he said. The civilians looked in shock and confusion at the so-called demon girl. They couldn't understand why she would come there to protect them by her own will, especially after she was told to flee. How much did you hear, Fu? Asked Shibuki. Since Fugu-san asked how much would Akatsuki offer for me, she said. Suddenly Shibuki charged towards the Akatsuki members. Get out of here and don't look back, Fu. I will distract them, he cried. Some of the Taki ninjas charged too while the rest stood there doubting themselves between helping their leader and protect Fu or to go with the council's plan. Shibuki delivered a high towards Kakuzu who dodged it easily. I will die to protect my comrades, he cried. That won't be necessary, said Kakuzu while he dispelled the henge that was on effect on him, revealing his true identity, Hataki Kakashi, the copy ninja. Tobi and the Zetsus also dispelled their henges, revealing themselves as a pair of Konoha ninjas, an Iwa ninja, a Kumo ninja, a Suna ninja and a Mizu ninja. Shibuki and many of the Taki ninjas recognized the Leaf ninjas as Naruto Uzumaki and Shino Aburame, the Iwa ninja as Kitsuchi, the Sandame Tsuchikage's son, the Kumo ninja was Darui, the Yandame Raikage's right-hand man, the Suna ninja happened to be Baki, one of the Sandame Kazekage's best ninjas, and finally, the Mizu ninja was Ao, one of Mizu's most feared Umbu hunter nins. Everyone looked at the imposters dumbfounded. What's the meaning of this? Roared Fugu. We were testing this village's adequacy to keep a Jinchuriki with Akatsuki around, said Shino. And you failed, exclaimed Naruto. Fugu looked at the Uzumaki and the Aburame in disgust. It was your idea, you fox boy? Really, you think you will get away with this? There will consequences and, he said before he almost fell to his knees due to the oppressive killing intent coming from Kakashi. Show respect to Yandame Dano's son, you old fart. Yes, there will be consequences. For your whole village, exclaimed the copy nin. The ninjas from the other great villages stepped forward. Frankly, I thought that Konoha was exaggerating when they said that Taki would handle the Nanabai Jinchuriki to Akatsuki with a minimal resistance, but I never imagined that they would be willingly to sell her like she was a slave, said Darui with utter disgust, something rare for a ninja known for his ability to keep his cool. This is an outrage. Akatsuki was behind the death of our Godame Tsuchikage. Cooperation with our enemy is an act of war. The Sandame will know about this, said Kitsuchi. Now I understand why the insistence to bring representatives of each great village to witness this act of treason. You are lucky that Mei-sama didn't come here, said Ao. Now there is no doubt about what to do. Allowing Fu-san to stay in Taki is a time bomb threatening the elemental nations. She will have to leave this village and put under the custody of the great villages, said Baki. You can't do that. The Nanabai belongs to Taki, you have no right to do that, cried Fugu. Suddenly he fell to his knees due to a punch in the gut delivered by Shino in his armored form. You are wrong, Taki renounced to any rights to have the custody of Chomei, the Nanabai, years ago, he said. The Taki ninjas surrounding the counselors tried to attack the Aburame but found themselves covered with the Kikachu bugs that Shino deployed when their attention was focused in the famous ninjas. What are you talking about? Asked Fu. Decades ago when the Shodai Hokage shared the tailed beasts with the rest of the villages, Taki was the only minor village that got one. Don't you find it strange? Logic says that it would have been more beneficial to Konoha if Hashirama Dano decided to keep Chomei, but he didn't. Why he would do that? What had this village that could justify such decision? Asked the Aburame. People murmured for a while. I don't know, the only important thing that this village ever had is the hero water, commented one of the Taki ninjas. Exactly, pointed Shino, that was the reason Hashirama Dano handed Chomei to Taki. The Biju's Jinchuriki was supposed to be the honored guardian of the hero water, so the ninja world would be protected from those who would want the power granted by the water for themselves, he said. The people from Taki gasped at Shino's revelation, especially Fu. According to his words, she should have had an honored position in the village instead of having to live outside of it. Shino continued with his talk. However, Taki decided to break the agreement with the Shodai Hokage with the decision to keep the Jinchuriki away from the village, that led to the incident with Suion days ago. Luckily it happened when some of my most powerful comrades visited the village and could stop him. Even worse, Hashirama Dano handed Chomei to Taki just after the village's failed attempt on his life when they sent the real Kakuzu to kill him. He did it as a sign of goodwill between our villages, but you decided to spit on his magnanimity, treating his gift like dirt. For those reasons Taki renounced to any right to keep Chomei's custody, he said. Many of the ninjas and the civilians looked down in shame while others looked the council waiting for an answer. We kept the Jinchurikis away because we didn't have any choice. The big tree that hides the village and produces the hero water reacted at the presence of the Jinchurikis. We couldn't allow the Biju to corrupt it, exclaimed Fugu. Fools! Chomei's presence was actually beneficial to the great tree. The Biju is the origin of the tree's power. Don't you know the history of the place you live? Asked Shino. The sage of the six paths didn't create the nanabai as an insect but as a maggot. At some point it attached himself to a tree and got into chrysalis state in order to achieve its insect form. The great tree was that tree. During the years the transformation lasted, it was affected by Chomei's chakra and gained its colossal size and the property to produce the village's hero water. Now even the representatives of the great villages were dumbfounded by the Aburame's revelations. Curiously, Kitsuchi didn't look affected at all. Wait a minute. How can you know that? And how do we know that it is true? Asked Fugu. Individually hive insects like Kikechu don't have a very big memory, but altogether they have ancient hive minds that keep decades or even centuries of knowledge. For insects, Chomei is the closest thing to a god. All important hives know that fact, explained Shino. He says the truth, said Kitsuchi, a member of the Kamizuru clan. The bee users told me the same story some years ago. They speculated that the presence of a Jinchuriki of the nanabai being near the tree constantly would empower it, making it able to produce more quantities of hero's water and even making it less harmful to humans due to the Jinchurikis acting like a filter or something like that. Fugu was speechless. Iwa's rivalry with Konoha was legendary. If the Tsuchikage son was confirming the words of a Konoha ninja, then they had to be true. The people of Taki didn't know what to think. The nanabai, the creature they loathed, not only was the origin of the tree that made the village possible, but his Jinchuriki was the one who should have been protecting it and empowering it. Shibuki was as shocked as everybody else. Then the confusion gave way to wrath. His father died due to the prolonged use of the hero's water so he could protect the village. Had the previous councils honored the deal with the Shodai Hokage and had the previous Jinchurikis protecting the tree, perhaps it would have led to a safer version of the hero's water and maybe his father could have survived. Many of the oldest ninjas had the same realization and looked at Shibuki with worried faces. Kakashi looked at Fugu. It doesn't matter if you were wrong about your reasons to isolate Fusan and the nanabai. You broke the deal with the Shodai Hokage and you were willingly to sell a Biju to the common enemy of the great ninja villages. For that reason I will reclaim the custody of Chomei in the name of the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, he said. Being an experienced politician, Fugu now understood why Konoha brought representatives of the other great villages. With them being witnesses of these events, Taki couldn't just ask them for help, accusing Konoha of abusing its military superiority to get the nanabai and increase its power. Wait a moment. You can claim the Nanabai, but Fu is still a Taki ninja, you can't take her, you will have to extract the bijou from her, pointed Fugu with a smirk, knowing that Konoha's ninjas were too soft to kill a girl in a long and painful ritual. Kakashi headed towards Fu, who was now on the ground in shock for the latest revelations. She got on guard when Kakashi got his hand on his pocket. Shibuki got between them ready to defend her. However, instead of a weapon, what he got was a small scroll. He unsealed it, revealing some documents and a forehead protector. Fu-san, due to your selfless actions during the Chunin exams protecting the children from the Sarutobi, Hyuga, Utatane and the Mitokado clans, the Fire Lord himself has decided to reward you with Fire Country citizenship. As sign of gratitude, said clans bought you a fully furnished apartment at Konoha, and the Yondaime Hokage offers you a place in Konoha's ranks where you will start as genin. We'll give you a sum of money for you expenses for your first days at the village until you are assigned to a team and start to take missions. He also swears on his honor as Hokage that he will punish with extreme prejudice anybody who dares to mistreats you due to your Jinchuriki status, but fortunately it is not likely to happen, said Kakashi while he showed Fu the documents and offered her the forehead protector. Nobody got surprised when she removed her Taki forehead protector and put the Konoha one on its place. She handed her old forehead protector to Shibuki. I'm sorry, Shibuki-sama, you are one of the few people who I really will miss, but I think that this is the best for everyone. The majority of the village doesn't want me and I don't like them, she said before giving him a brief hug. She looked at Kakashi. Hataki-san, can we make a stop at my home so I can collect my things? She asked. Of course, we will provide you some scrolls to seal them, he said. Fu sent a brief look at Taki's people before leaving the place, not turning back. The foreign ninjas left the place after her, but not before some of them looked at the Taki folk. This is not over, the Kages won't forget what you tried to do, said Baki. Goodbye, you wet sheets, exclaimed Naruto while he sticked out his tongue. Fugu paled. Wait. You are the one who... I don't know what you are talking about, but it should be the least of your concerns, interrupted Shibuki. What are you talking about? Asked Fugu. As you know, your actions and the ones from your fellow counselors not only left us without one of the most promising ninjas that this village ever had, but brought the wrath of the 5 great villages upon us. If we don't want to have Taki meeting the same destiny as Yuzu, we will have to take some drastic measures to appease them. I think that delivering to them the corpses of the Taki counselors who decided to betray them will be enough to prevent a bloodbath, said Shibuki while he put Fu's old protector on his knuckles, remembering the Yondaime Hokage's most infamous exploit when some traitors at his village tried to do the same with his own son. Taking example from his leader, the rest of Taki's ninjas unsheathed their weapons and headed towards the counselors with cold eyes. The civilians turned back and headed back to their homes, heads flung in shame. Wait. Why you can't do this, cried Fugu. We can and we must do it, remember what you said earlier, you should be happy that your sacrifices will prevent a bloodbath, said Shibuki. History proved him right and the villages didn't retaliate to Taki.
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.